What if your next 100 customers are already out there dropping clues, searching, clicking, asking, and you're just not listening? Most sales teams waste time chasing cold leads, but the smartest ones, they track buying signals across the web, intent, conversations, job changes, funding news, and strike when the time is right. In this video, we will show you how to use AI and signal tracking to find leads before they raise their hand, build laser-targeted prospect lists, automate your outreach with context that actually converts. Whether you're selling B2B SaaS, financial services, or consulting, this playbook will change how you do outbound forever. Let's stop guessing. Let's start scaling using real signals and the power of AI. Let's get into it. My name is Renjit Philip, Managing Partner at Futureu Strategy Group, where we build solutions like these for businesses like yours. The voice that you hear, along with mine, is that of Senior Partner Dhruv Arora, who is an expert in architecting and building AI solutions. Hey Dhruv, welcome to our second foray into building an AI system on the fly. So we are trying to see how to get leads for B2B businesses. And this comes on the back of number of clients that we're talking to, where it is important not just to get a lead which has an email ID and name and designation, but also to get some signals or some indicators that these guys are ready to buy. For example, a new CEO or a new CFO may be looking for changes to be made in their company, and perhaps that's the right time to talk to them. So that's the kind of background before I hand it over to you and to show us how you will take us through this journey of getting qualified leads.
Absolutely. I think you framed it properly. In the B2B context, it becomes really important that the timing of reaching out is critical. You need to figure out a way that you are reaching out to your customers at the right time when they probably are also thinking about a problem which your solution can solve. It becomes imperative. At the same time, it also becomes important that when you talk to them with the right context in mind, seeing what is happening in that company, the events that they are going through, include them in your solution, then the chances of them responding positively also go up. So yeah, identifying the right lead, enriching the context, and then engaging them makes all the difference in B2B outreach.
Yes.
The first stage of this process is lead generation, where you figure out a way to identify companies that are going through events which make them more receptive to your solution. This is what we call signals. Let me just show you. So a map of signals for a particular use case. Let me just zoom in a little.
We can see the sort of star diagrams.
This is a semantic map of signals for a trade finance use case. Each of these clusters is for signal category. For example, this is the working capital issue signal category. Then it is further subdivided into subcategories of signal and probably an intent type. This is the way we try to define certain events that a company might be going through, and we search across where companies are going through such events. This is another event which is around competitive and market dynamics. It has subcategories, leadership and organization changes. There are certain senior leadership changes that happen, which makes the company more receptive to new ideas or new technology solutions, captures that.
So what you're doing with this semantic diagram is that what if your company needs to track leadership and org changes, but that's just one word, one idea. That can be broken down into multiple things. And these yellow dots are showing you, could be restructuring, new leadership. It could be a new finance team hire, management buyout, post-merger integration, so on and so forth. And that can be divided down into those light blue balls. So all these words which are semantically connected will come in handy in searching through the sources of signal, either the web or through other databases which have these signals or have these events recorded in them. Am I getting this right?
Correct. Absolutely correct. So the core idea is try and identify a signal category, then subdivide into further subcategories, which may be more aligned to your use case, and also try and identify what could be the intent of the organization with this. So that's the blue dot. Okay. And similarly, this entire exercise needs to be done for different use cases, for different products, different industries, where we sit with the senior management and figure out what are the times when you see your sales outreach effort yielding a much higher engagement rates, what kind of events your potential customers are going through, And then we try and map out that into a signal semantic map, something like this. Also have an Excel. If I show you the Excel, so this is the Excel part of it.
That,
It becomes a running row-wise Excel and
yeah,
doesn't make sense. And it's not
yeah,
at all exciting
yeah.
to discuss
This
on this. Now, let me just show you how we actually do this. So this is another Python script which we'll use that I've created. So the idea is also to have some level of modularity in this entire signal search or a company search or web scraping, because you can't just go out and search the entire web. You try to focus, try and identify some focus areas. So there is one focus areas we identify is geography. So you enter the geography or a country you want to search in. Then we've also added a feature for industries. So maybe some of the industries are more prone to your solution than other industries. So you
Sure.
can actually put in some industries. So let's say agriculture, we can put also agri foods is a classified industry. We can put food processing also probably. So what it is now doing, it has converted those signals into searchable queries on. So currently it is working on Google News, and it has gone out on the web and started searching for all the companies or news items where those signals are found.
Okay.
So it will run for a couple of minutes and try and identify any news item which is related to those signals in that geography for that particular industry.
Got it. So this is the geography that I'm targeting, and this is the sort of industry that I'm targeting, and now it's going to search news. Is there any number of days that it's going to go back to search, or is it today's news, or what is
So,
the?
so we can configure days, but in this current script, I have not configured it for any particular day. It will just go and search for the items. And once the output comes, the output also mentions the date of that event. So then we can filter it out. Sometimes you want to filter it out depending upon the signal. For example, a senior leadership is still okay for the last 2, 3 months. For some events, it is okay only for the last month. Recency requirement is much higher. So
Hmm.
you can pick and choose. So now
Oh,
it is run. And it has searched across the globe for all those signals and identified some of these news items. Just show you what it has found.
so basically, now we've got a lot of news items about companies that could potentially be our target.
Yes, found about 3,000 news items. These are the titles of those events or signals. As you can see, there is a company which is appointing a new CFO. There is a company which is appoints a new CEO for a particular area. So these are the bunch of all such events that your signal has identified. And at the same time, you can see there is a date which has come here. So we capture the date of when this news was published, and we can use the filtration mechanism to figure out. The next stage now is trying to identify out of all of these raw, we call it raw signal outputs, what can be our potential focus areas. So the next step is try and extract company names from this. So you don't know what is the name of the company. So you have to figure out a way to identify, okay, Hero Packaging is the name of the company. So next
Right.
step in this journey is to try and identify the name of the companies.
Oh.
So let me just show you how we do that. I am going to another tool. Let me quickly share.
Yeah. The date obviously is, I can see various dates from January to this time. So basically, there's a filtration that will come in to take out the new pieces of news and so on. Okay.
So this is again a small workflow sequence of steps created in make.com, which includes certain set of transformations and calls of internet and also AI agent.
Hmm.
So what I've done in the background is I've converted that raw sheet of titles into a Google sheet. And this is the workflow which will go one by one on all those title items, read the content of the title, figure out where the news item has come from. And this is the stage after you know the company name. Yes. Yeah, this is a relatively simpler one where you just identify the name of the company.
Right.
So again, so the titles are shifted to a Google Sheet, runs and reads one by row the Google Sheet, the title, sends it to an agent, and figures what the name of the company in that title. So it's a very simple use of
So,
AI. And you tell me what is the name of the company. And AI agents, since they are very good at name entity recognition. So you don't have to feed in a lot of this. You just feed in the instructions. This is the instruction. It is a few short prompt. So it has identified the name of the company.
Great.
And this small workflow just converts the titles into the name of the company and goes and writes back into that Excel sheet. So with this flow running, I've not done it for all cases. I've just shown it for one of the use case. You identified the name of the company. But that is not enough. Actually, as I said, you know that this company has gone through the events that you are interested in. You're tracking through your signals. But what you need to also know is what is it that is regarding that signal that is happening in that company, and what you can talk to them about. So the next stage in this process is now what we call it as context enrichment, where you've identified the focus company. There is something that is happening with them, but what exactly is happening, you have to still figure out. So this is another workflow that automates this entire process. It takes the name of the company, it takes the news item, searches for the right context of that news item, and then gives you some level of summary of what has happened, and also a kind of talking points or engagement pointers. Let me just show you how it works.
Okay.
So again, this is a flow. It goes on and reads a Google Sheet. There are certain manipulations of that data. It does an online call, fetches the article. It is not very easy. Google has all possible ways to avoid this, but you have to be a little bit clever in terms trying to figure out how do you get that, and we've managed to figure that out. So it gets the context of that event, sends it to an AI agent. So this AI agent is configured with your proposition that this is what we are trying to sell. It then compares the context and creates possible talking points for you, which then can be used for your engagement setup.
Got it. So goes and searches for the news item, and then the AI agent takes your services, mashes it up together, and says, here are the talking points that you can use for this client for this news item.
Yes. Let's see. Each step goes.
So what will come out is probably some messaging which is useful for your sales team.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So what it has done is it read particular one of the row items. Let me just show you. This was the title, American Packaging Promotion CEO. It went and it searched for the news item. This is the link it found. This is where some technical jugglery is utilized. This link is not readily available. You have to do multiple calls to figure out where is this link, because Google doesn't share it easily.
I see.
Then you fetch the content of that article. You have to utilize some other technical services, because you fetch content online, it consists of entire web page. It will have ad, it will have HTML code, it will have JavaScript code. You can't simply send that entire raw data into an LLM. LLM will get confused and unnecessary token consumption will happen. So you have to try and extract the text part of that article. Let me just show you. It will read and it will convert that into simple text. So it has identified the text items and given us that. This is what we then send to the LLM. This is the context of the information. So what we have done in this process, this is the framework that we created. It has certain items. Obviously, this is the input. What is the company name? What action has happened around that company? And any particular focus area. So it tries and identified the focus area matching with the signal.
Right.
What is the domain of this company? What are some of the trigger words? So the reason this kind of engagement pointer structure that we have created, because this now can feed into your engagement pipeline. These are the talking points that you can have different ways of discussing this particular context with these possible companies. And it also suggests what can be the core theme of your communication. So this becomes a very actionable lead, right? It has now converted that piece of information into very specific engagement pointers, which you can use, your sales team can use, your marketing team can use, your lead nurturing team can use to actually create a bunch of communication and engagement around these points for this company. And again, it goes back, and the final step of this stage is to just add it into a Google Sheet for you to refer to later or consolidate or analyze or whatever you do. So this is broadly the three sections of this flow. The first section is around identifying the target companies, which is working on the signal matrix, getting Google alerts and news alerts, scraping the web, and identifying a raw list. A possible parallel process that we are also thinking of making here is, while this is the way to search open Google, maybe there are certain LLMs which are now become very good on web search. Maybe we can experiment with some of those LLMs or one or two signal categories and see, can they give us a better picture or a better format or better context in their search process. So this is experimental. We'll try and work on this and see whether it makes sense. The idea of this section of the flow is to create a target list of companies, which is the first process that I showed you. Then comes the conversion of target list into a focus list. Sometimes you are working on some of these leads already, so it needs to reconcile with your existing lead database to see whether the same companies are already there, you are engaging with them. So that is the first step of kind of filtration. The second level of filtration also comes around your business context, where some of the leads, some of the companies you are not interested to work in, either they are too big or too small for your ideal customer profile. They might be in an industry which probably is not your current focus area. So there is a way you can actually filter out some of these things. APIs and external databases and services available where you enrich the company name with all of this information about their geography, their size of the company, number of employees, industry, obviously, and you can filter it out, company specific. Yeah.
So just to pause there, I think you mentioned Apollo here. We could potentially use any such source of data. There's Zoom Info, Apollo, there's obviously Bloomberg, there's Dun and Bradstreet. Depending on which industry segment you're targeting, there could be different data sources.
Absolutely. I've just mentioned Apollo because sometimes it is the most familiar name. But yes, Zoom Info is another source where you can, after that, you get a focus list. So this is your core, this month or this particular period, target companies, focus companies where you want to work on. Then comes the stage of context enrichment. So this is the stage where you then go out and do searching around that company and that event or signal to figure out what exactly is happening with that company for that signal. So I showed you this first step, which is around news items and AI agent that does that. A parallel process that also can be built is around LinkedIn posts. For example, you go out and see the LinkedIn posts of the company, of the CEO, of the CFO or senior leaders and get some contextual information from there. You can also do this for Twitter, now called X.
Yes, indeed.
Figure out what is the company posting, CEO or the senior leadership is posting about. If it adds to your context, you can fetch that and combine all of that into engagement pointers, the example that I showed you. So now the next step is you can leave it at that and somebody else takes over, figure out a way to create small format contents like comments, which can be posted as a reply to the post of the senior leaders on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can actually craft a series of engagement emails. You can actually ask this AI agent to create a series of 3 or 4 emails. So you can do all of that. And then eventually, this is where it goes and plugs into your CRM, either directly sending the content into your CRM and obviously sending the lead information into your CRM, and the CRM takes over. So this is the final step where you actually create engagement snippets. And all of this is completely automated. There is no human intervention. Once the process is created, it runs on its own and derived from what a good sales agent also does in their day-to-day life. This is a known fact that if you research the company, know what is the context and link it to your proposition, obviously the sales outreach is a success. We have just translated that insight into a fully automated process where AI agents, LLMs are embedded strategically into the process points where you need a level of intelligence to do that small task so that the entire process becomes automated. So this can run day in, day out.
Perfect. Very good. So this is it, right? This is the whole flow. And so thank you for walking us through. This is pretty exciting.